This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tonya Lead.
Welcome to IA Forward. We've had our first major hurricane of the year. How are things there in Texas in the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl?
They are very hot because people have been without power in the Houston area for a little longer than probably they should have been without power. It was like 2.3 million people without power. That's a lot of people without power. And that's one thing to be without power in Vancouver. It's another thing to be without power in Houston, Texas during July. That is probably the biggest concern. Yes, there's going to be damage. Yes, it's going to be a cat event. But it's not going to be a Katrina, Rita, Ike, Laura. It's not going to be a 10, 15, $20 billion event. We haven't seen the claims activity on property at those levels, anywhere near those levels. But we have a lot of trees in eastern Texas. So we have a lot of power lines that got hit, and we've got a power grid that's been damaged. That is the biggest problem that people are dealing with and not comfortable. Heat indexes well into over 100. And so just a lot of yuck, blah. Okay, we can survive this, but it's not fun.
You're in a coastal region. I grew up in Louisiana. I live in Florida now. I've always been in a coastal region. Hurricane and weather disaster preparedness is just a thing. It's a different situation when you're the insurance agent. Because when you're going through the same things that all of your clients are going through, it can be really difficult.
You've got your personal situation, you've got your business situation. And the good thing is that we finally caught up technology-wise to this ability to operate remotely anywhere that we can get to Wi-Fi, internet access. And there's just this opportunity that we have from not everyone being in a central office anymore, that there are some of your staff or employees that are in different places. And so you're not just at this all eggs in one basket kind of view from an operational standpoint. And pre-pandemic, that wasn't necessarily the case. And certainly you go back a decade, 10 years ago, and that definitely wasn't the case. And trying to figure out how to take care of your personal stuff if you have damage to that, and make sure your business is up and operating, your people are okay, their personal stuff. And then you have your clients, of course, who are in desperate need of help, assistance in filing claims, mainly just hearing from you, or when they call, being able to talk to someone to be reassured that there's a process, it's okay. The relaxing calm that comes out of, hey, we're here. Hey, we're available. That is a very important thing from an insurance brokerage standpoint. The insurance agency, or the insurance company for that matter, doesn't want to be unavailable, out of business temporarily, even though it can happen. And I knew agents that were in New Orleans during Katrina, and they were literally had to move and reset up shop in temporary quarters in Baton Rouge. So there are the extreme levels of disaster, and then there are the temporary hours, maybe a day scenarios, like what I feel like has been the most frequent thing with Beryl here in the last few weeks.
Y'all had a snowmageddon ice storm in East Texas in 2022-ish?
2021.
So let's talk ice storms amidst hurricane season when it's 120 degrees outside with 100% humidity.
Think cool thoughts. We can even go into Midwest talk, all kinds of storms. From our experience, both coastal hurricanes and a couple of freezes, the worst of those being the 2021 freeze, where we were below freezing for 5 or 6 days, which from the eastern and central part of the state, we're not equipped for that. We don't have trucks and gravel and spread it on the roads, and we don't have the equipment, the plows to clear the roads up. So we're a disaster driving in ice and snow in East Texas. We have no idea what we're doing. It's one of those deals where you get out on the road and you hope no one else is on the road at that moment because you need to go check something or get something. Otherwise, you stay off the roads in East Texas during an ice storm because nobody knows what they're doing. But that event maybe was a tipping point for us because we had some issues. We were still locked into our desk in terms of just the computer. The average employee had a desktop computer. Today, we are 100% laptop oriented with docking stations and so forth. And people can pop and go. And if we think we've got something coming, then it's the natural process of take your laptop with you. We went through that type of process after the Snowmageddon event. We were already on voice over IP, but we went to a more flexible voice over IP after that event as well. You, along with a couple of other fully remote non-East Texas folks, actually handled some phone calls and did some things around that event. We were prepared, but we weren't fully prepared because we really had people at home with power and internet, but they had no device. Today, if that happens again, I'm going to guess that at least 80% of our people would be up within 24 hours versus 15% of our people being up in 24 hours back in 2021. And so there's just things that we learned and we took away from that disaster that moves us forward in being able to handle the next Katrina, the next really bad hurricane or other type of disaster within our future, which is bound to happen at some point.
During Hurricane Beryl, I was in Oklahoma at an event that had people flying in from all over the world. There was a large delegation from the Cayman Islands that were flying in. And Beryl hit the Caribbean much harder than it hit the United States. They found it so fascinating that we actually had way more information on what was going on with their homes than they did there in the Cayman Islands. And we can talk about the infotainment that is weather and that is a weather disaster and all of the things that are going to happen if Jim Cantori shows up within 2 hours of your home. But that being said, we are incredibly blessed to have the kind of information that we do. Even if it is the boy who cried wolf sometimes, we are incredibly lucky here. I was out of the country during Hurricane Harvey, and I remember watching TV and seeing the things that were going on from one specific news channel in the U.S. because that's all we had. When I got back to the U.S., Houston did not look like this particular news channel had shown it looked like, which was such a relief. And after that experience, I came to appreciate the fact that we have so many different options to be able to glean information from.
That takes us into this need for balance. There's the news element. There's the amount of information that, weather channels, weather apps, in their efforts to be better and make for more time and warnings and awareness, what we find ourselves in is what Malcolm Gladwell, one of his books where he talks about the near miss theory. And in that, he was talking about bombing in London during World War II and how people became almost invincible in their minds. They really just thought the bomb didn't hit me 10 times in a row, I'm okay. And we're talking about scenarios where they're out to dinner or they're out in the market or out in town and a bomb hits 2 blocks away and they feel it and they smell the smoke very close. And that leads us to this same kind of situation when you have so much information and we talk about it so early, hurricanes coming off the coast of Africa, the Cape, and we get such an early indication and we watch these things. Beryl was the earliest Cat 5 hurricane on record ever. And we knew about that early, and it's like alarms and Armageddon and oh my gosh, and the sky is falling, and it hits as a 2 in the Yucatan. Now, obviously it hit as a 4 or 5 in some Caribbean islands, but it hit the Yucatan as a 2. It hit between Corpus Christi and Houston as a 1. But the near miss thing applies here because we do less. It's not coming at us. Look at the spaghetti models. Look at all these. We got the Euro model. We got this GFS. We got all these different models that I just know the terms, but I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's so much. Like we've got Facebook groups and novice experts. We've got the Facebookers with 100,000 subscribers. Tropical Storm Central. It's a guy out of Florida that is like Mr. Hurricane. And now he's become Mr. Natural Disaster and Mr. Storm Central or whatever. And he'll go live like 3 times a day during one of these events. And people are commenting and he's got paid subscribers now. And it's like, are we helping or are we hurting? That's the social question that I have. If we were to put this through a social experiment view, are we really developing the near miss scenario where people are going to be less encouraged to prepare for the disaster, have a plan, or are they going to prepare and then at some point, because of the amount of information that's coming at them, they decide, you know what, it's not happening to me, so I don't prepare at all. That's the new norm that I feel like I see. That's just my personal view, is that we prepare less than we did 10 or 15 years ago because now we do not believe it's actually going to happen to us. We're invincible to the disaster.
If you want to read about the concept of the near miss that Shane is talking about, that came out of Malcolm Gladwell's book, David and Goliath. Fantastic read, especially as a business owner. Highly recommend it. And I can tell you, I am one of the people during Hurricane Sally that this happened to, because Hurricane Sally was not supposed to hit Pensacola, Florida. It was supposed to hit New Orleans. And we had seen all the models. We had seen this model, that model, whatever. There's only one model that had it anywhere near us. And we were very much this, yeah, it's not going to hit us. We don't even have to worry about it. I didn't even wash clothes. Like, I had no clean clothes because there was no way it was going to hit us. So we weren't worried about it. There were billions of dollars in claims because a large international company thought there's no way it's going to hit us and did not move barges and massive cranes out of our area because of it. And at the point that hurricane turned at the last minute and headed towards us, there was no way to get tugs in to get barges out. So it was one of the biggest commercial claims ever because of this concept of there's no way it's going to happen because there's too much information out there.
Yeah.
So yes, I am living proof that this is a real thing.
My youngest daughter is in school at the University of Kansas in Lawrence there, and I've spoken about that before on this podcast. And one of her roommates is from Topeka, and another one's from Oklahoma, and the fourth roommate is from Arizona. So Arizona being the least of the disaster states, I'm like many dads, and I have locations and I have weather apps and her location, and I get the weather alerts, and I'm trying not to be like, hey, thunderstorm warning, tornado watch. I'm trying not to be that dad. But we had some serious spring storms in Kansas and Oklahoma this past year, early 2024. And because of the number and frequency of those storms, I found myself watching a little more intently. And the wonderful exchange was a FaceTime call where I said, hey, are y'all okay? It looks like y'all are under a tornado watch, and the line's coming through Topeka and headed towards Lawrence. And the Topeka roommate, wonderful young lady that I love dearly, is like, Shane, calm down. I grew up under a tornado watch. We play outside under tornado watches in Kansas. And she was right. They live under tornado watches in certain times of the year, and warnings to them, they look and, okay, warning, but that thing is 17 miles away. I'm good. It's one of those things that where I feel like near miss is definitely there. If you grew up under a tornado watch, then a tornado watch does not excite you much. But if you're not from an area where there's a frequent tornado watch, then you're probably going to lose it when you get an alert that there's a tornado watch for a little while in your new place that you're living in. That's the whole concept here is we have so much information. And yes, I want to tell people to prepare, but let's create a plan and let's operate to some degree under that plan continuously so that it is not a freak out moment of a hurricane's in the Gulf. Now let's panic. We need to prepare in the sense that on a very simplistic basis, what do we do if we're without power? What do we do if we don't have an office? What is the communication method with our people, clients? All of those things. Just take some time to do some planning regardless of where you are, because there's a really good chance that there is some type of potential weather-related, mostly disaster close to you if you live in the continental U.S. There are some places that are greater risk than others. Everyone really needs to have a disaster plan, and that plan probably needs to be reviewed at least annually. Do we have it right? Has the technology changed? Is the technology good? Can it do what we need it to do? And that's maybe the way that we get out of this near miss mindset so that we don't find ourselves in the situation.
This is also a great time to be able to educate clients and potential clients. I remember last August when we were in the process of buying our house, when I was talking with our insurance agent here in Florida, I made the decision to go ahead and bind the policy. I didn't want to put it off. I wanted to make sure that all of my T's were crossed and my I's were dotted, and I didn't want there to be any challenges. And she said, don't need to do it this early. We can wait. And I said, just go ahead and do it. My husband and I, we've talked about it. Just go ahead and do it. That way there are no questions. And then when a hurricane popped up 2 days before closing, we were able to close on our house where nobody else in the state of Florida was basically able to close on a house that week. And so it may be one of those things that when you're talking with a client, that you say, hey, remember, we're in the middle of hurricane season. Do you want to go ahead and do this? This is what can happen, and have those kinds of conversations. And then it puts you in that trusted advisor position from the very beginning.
Which ultimately we all want to be in. That's wonderful to have that type of status with your clients. I really struggle as a recovering procrastinator. I still procrastinate sometimes, but I'm better. I happen to be married to a non-procrastinator.
Just to give perspective to our listeners, payday is 8 days away, and I just got my paycheck stub electronically right now since we've been recording.
Pretty amazing there in terms of just the capability. I am not that person naturally. I'm going to say and guess as a sales marketer and brander that Tonya probably isn't that person.
You know that answer pretty well.
So what we have in this organization, the comic relief, is we have a sales marketing personality as the CEO, and we have a marketing brand expert reporting to that CEO, and we're a hot mess a lot of the times. But we work and we get it together and we figure it out. And we're both working on ourselves in different ways. And procrastination is one of the things that over the last probably 8 to 10 years has been at the forefront of my own self-development goals. At the core, procrastination is the biggest problem here. You've got the near miss. It's not going to happen to me. And then you've got the, I've got time. I can wait and do that tomorrow. The procrastinator's creed. Why do today what you can do tomorrow? That's the procrastinator's creed. If we can simply move into this realm of let's get it done. Let's plan it out. Let's get it done. Let's not overbook ourselves and let's get ahead of this. And okay, you're behind right now and hurricane season has started. Does that mean you're going to have this incredible, perfect disaster plan? No. But if you get a little bit of one, if you get half of one, and then you review it at the end of the year and see how it went and fill in the pieces and tweak it, then mid-year, end of year, some calendaring planning thing, you finish it out and put it into place, then regardless of what part of the country you're in, you now have a disaster plan. You now have not procrastinated until there's a storm in the Gulf or approaching the Caribbean, or it's spring storm season in the Midwest, or whatever the situation becomes in your part of the country. You actually have gotten ahead of this, and it started with not waiting until tomorrow. It started with not being a procrastinator on this topic and understanding that, yeah, it's probably not going to happen to you percentage-wise. The near miss is probably real, but if it does happen to you, you're ready for it. Your people are ready for it. Your clients are ready because you're ready. And that's where we started this whole conversation is, as an insurance organization, we are very essential in the face of that disaster and the face of those storms. Not necessarily because a claim can't wait a day or two to be filed or anything like that, but it's really more about the calming nature of we're here. We have not abandoned you. We are here. We are open. We are available. And that's the point that I see and Tonya's bringing up about availability and being there and having an opportunity to be that trusted advisor to your clients.
Being the voice of reason amidst chaos is our job. The most valuable assets have been damaged. They need somebody to remain calm. Yes, they can call the 800 number on the back of the card. But ultimately, for us as independent agents, this is our time to shine. And we can't shine if we don't have that plan.
I had a lunch across the street from our office a few days ago, and I sat at the lunch table at the barbecue place, and the lunch table is filled with retired individuals, and I just made myself at home. It's fun to listen to the stories. It's fun to listen to just different perspectives from those that are in their golden years. And one of those individuals happens to be a retired insurance agent, and he got to talking about things and asking how things were and what's going on in the market and things like that. And he started talking about when storms were rolling in or happened, or when some widespread claim event, that he made it a point to have his people literally doing call outs to just check on people, not sell them anything, not data, we don't need anything, nothing's wrong. And a lot of times we've lost this. We've lost this because of automation at times, because the technology is there and we've pulled back our people, and we're trying to just be such a heavy sales oriented organization. There's an opportunity here to take one or two of your people, pull them off of something for a day or two, and just make some phone calls. Just sit there and call. They don't have to spend 30 minutes on the phone. They don't have to solicit anything, just literally making a call out. You're going to get their voicemail about, what do you think, 80%, maybe higher, maybe 90% of the time?
Yes.
Yeah. Either you're going to get their voicemail, have a natural script of, hey, this is Joe with Integra Insurance, just checking on you, making sure everything's okay. Give us a call if you need anything. Very simple. It's a message. It's a touch. It's been thrown out there. The old timer, the retired agent, was talking about that and how much good it did for his business from a marketing standpoint, a PR branding standpoint, and how good it made his people feel that they, as an organization, were checking on their clients. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. I never really thought about it from your employee's standpoint, but his employees always got energized or a good feeling around doing that type of proactive thing. One, because him as an owner, he was putting this first. He was putting this relationship above selling. And in an indirect way, it was actually going to sell more for him in the future. It was a fascinating conversation to have. And yes, I've known about things like that for 20 plus years and doing that. But again, we get busy. We procrastinate. We don't have an intentional plan around it. And then we don't do it. That's a big part of what we have to take away from this as well.
I'm going to leave us today with this quote from Paul Bear Bryant. It's not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare to win that matters.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now or learn more at IAForward.com.